This is Hammer Striker here. I've got a couple of 1911s on the table. One of them is chambered in 45 ACP and one of them is chambered in 9mm. A local viewer was kind enough to lend us the 9mm Springfield that you see here on the table. It's a range officer. And what I'm going to do is I want to show you the difference between a 45 ACP 1911 and a 9mm 1911. So I'm not going to compare the Colt to the Springfield per se, but I'm going to use each one as an example of that particular design and setup. There may be a few things that are different from manufacturer to manufacturer, but overall I should kind of show you what's different between the two. So I'll start out first and show you that I have unloaded guns to play with here. So the 9mm is unloaded. And the 45 is unloaded. What I've got here are two 70 series, basically government model 1911s. Neither one of them has the internal firing pin safety, so they're virtually identical. If I set them side by side, their footprints are almost exact. Even to the point of the mag wells being identical. So I've got a 9mm magazine here. Actually, that was the 45. And I can drop it into the 9mm and it'll actually fit. And I can take this 9mm magazine and I can drop it into the 45 and it'll fit and it locks in place. Now obviously that won't work, caliber differences. What you're going to see is that the overall dimensions of the magazine and the mag wells are basically identical. One thing that you find kind of interesting about the magazines themselves, I can show you. I've got these magazines loaded with these stab caps. So I got the 45 magazine and the 9mm magazine. I've got this little ridge on the 9mm. And at the back of the 9mm, there's a little plate, a little metal protrusion on the magazine. And that centers the round. So the feed lips are of course different for the size of the cartridge, and the follower is a little bit different. The magazines are basically identical in size. A little difference at the front with some of the cutouts you can see here. A little bit difference in the cutouts for allowing the rounds to properly feed. But what they've done is they've taken the size and shape of the 1911 magazine so you can get a regular grip. So the grip, the grips themselves, the feel of it, the overall dimensions are the same. They both have the standard thumb safeties. Now this one happens to have the extended thumb safety, but that's just a characteristic Springfield. And the grip panels would be interchangeable. So basically what you're looking at is whichever gun you're picking up. It's just a 1911. Works just like a 1911. Comes apart just like a 1911. And the majority of the internal parts are almost identical. So what I'm going to do, and also from a weight perspective, they're close. The Colt right here is 37.2 ounces. Now you would think 9mm would be lighter. It's actually a little bit heavier. It's 38 ounces. And the reason for that is the barrel weighs 3.3 ounces in the Colt. It weighs 4.9 ounces in the Springfield. And there's also some internal milling differences that account for the feed ramp, and I'll show you when I get it apart. And part of the reason that the barrel is heavier in the 9mm is it's the same blank, and you'll see that when I get it apart. It's just got a smaller hole drilled in it, so there's more metal. So the weight differences that you're getting really are machining differences specific to the caliber. One thing you will find is with that amount of weight in the 9mm cartridge, the recoil is almost non-existent. You almost feel the slide cycling more than you feel the round itself going off. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to take both of the guns apart and set their parts up side by side so I can show you the things that are the same and the things that are different throughout the internals of them. Okay, so I've got the two guns apart. What I've got is I've got the 45 over here on this side, and I've got the 9mm over on this side. And as you're going to see, a lot of these parts are nearly identical. So I'm going to be very careful to do it part by part and keep the parts separate from each other because I don't want to mix the parts up. Theoretically, many of them would actually be interchangeable, but a few of them, like the barrel, of course the slides would be easy to tell because they're stamped, but the recoil springs and things like that might fit, but they wouldn't function properly. So I'm going to start with some of the simpler parts, the spring retainers. So I got the one from the 45 and the one from the 9mm. As you'll see, they're basically identical. And these probably would interchange and function perfectly. So I'll set those aside. Barrel bushings are roughly the same too. Now you'd think the barrel bushing for the 9mm, which is in my left hand here, would have a smaller diameter, but it doesn't because the barrel blank is the same. So the hole that's going through the bushing is the same on both of the two guns. Of course, the takedown pins are basically identical. The only differences you might see would be manufacturing differences between the two manufacturers, but architecturally they're the same. A couple little differences in the way they've chosen to mill it, but that's not a caliber difference, that's just the two brands. Now the recoil spring guide rod assemblies, they're both GI guide rods. You'll see that the 45 spring, which is here in my right hand, has got a little bit wider coils, and there's a bit slightly longer coils on the 9mm. The weights of these two springs are different, but the guide rods themselves are the same thing. So I get my hand out of the way. The guide rods are the same thing. They're both GI guide rods, and any differences you would see might be cosmetic based on the two manufacturers. Now the barrels are going to be similar and different at the same time. When I look at it where you can't see the chamber, you can't see the bore, they're basically identical. Same thickness, and if I put them end to end, they join into one piece of metal, so they're even the same diameter. Now of course when you look at the ends, you can tell the difference in the hole. And that's why this barrel is heavier. It's basically the same blank, but with more metal in it because they've drilled a smaller hole in it. Now when you get down to the chamber end and the feed ramp end, there are some differences. The 9mm has a full feed ramp on the barrel itself. The 45 has this partial feed ramp, and then you have a continuation of the feed ramp in the frame. And when I show you the frames, you'll see there's a little bit of feed ramp on the frame in the 9mm, but it's almost inconsequential. And this one happens to have a cutout for a witness hole, so you can peek down through the top and see whether or not there's any brass in it. When I turn the sides, you'll see that they've both got the same lug, and of course the one sticks out a little further, that's your feed ramp. And if I turn them upside down, the forward part of the lug is almost identical. There's the lug on both of them. So again, I've got the 9mm here as I've turned them around, rotated them around, and this is the 45. I'll move my hand so you can see the chambers. So other than some differences that are associated with the feed ramp and the feeding of the round, and of course the diameter of the hole, basically these barrels could have been forged from the same blank. There's some style changes up here at the front, and that's just the manufacturer choosing to mill it one way versus the other. So we'll set the barrels aside and we'll look at the slides. Now the slides, if you ignored the manufacturer's markings, it would be very difficult to tell them apart. They're almost identical, right down to the locking slots, the ramp, everything else, the firing pin at the back. So from a slide perspective, almost could just interchange the slides. There's going to be a little bit of difference in the extractor, and it'll be hard to tell, but you can see I get a little bit of light in there maybe if I get it turned just right. You can see the extractor is a little bit different. This is the 9mm here in my left hand. The extractors are a little bit different in how they grip it and the thickness of them. But that's going to be, of course, the difference in the caliber. The 9mm is a little bit bigger diameter. And when I get to the frames, which is the last piece, on first glance, they look a little bit identical. You'll see that the ejector on the 9mm, which is over here in my left hand, the ejector is moved a little bit versus on the 45. And that's, of course, because you've got a narrower diameter bullet. The one thing you will notice is the 45 frame in my right hand here has probably like 3/4 of a feed ramp, maybe an 80% of a feed ramp in it for the 45, and the 9mm here in my left hand has just a little bit of a feed ramp, almost non-existent. And that's just going to be the difference in the way they've chosen to ramp the feed ramp for the 45 and versus the 9. So you can see it right there, pointing at it with the pointer. So internally, there are minor differences. These two frames would not be interchangeable merely because of those feed ramps. But all the rest of the dimensions, the hammer and everything else is all the same. The safety and a few of the other things, the style of the hammer is a little bit different, but those are manufacturer preferences for styling, not functional differences for the calibers. So when you're looking at a 9mm 1911 and wondering to yourself, is it a real 1911? Yeah, it's a real 1911. It works like a real 1911. It functions just like a 1911. And to me, it's a testament to the amazing design that's 100 plus years old. And we've got people that are, fitting them from modern cartridges, the 9mm, and they also are available in 40 and 10, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them over time in some other cartridges. And there's people that are actually want to buy them in those cartridges. Very few things that we have, automobiles, refrigerators, anything else, has survived this unchanged for this many years and is still desirable and close to its original form. Now I know this isn't exactly the same as the 1911, that was 100 plus years ago, but it's really, really close. The changes are just minor nuances and slight tunings. And nothing else we've got has really made that kind of a cut and stayed so close to its original form. So when you see them chambered in 9mm and some of these other cartridges, that really does testify to just how well designed the 1911 is, that it can really stand the test of time, especially against all the other really great guns that are out there that are chambered in these cartridges and the polymer wonders, that these still persist. So hopefully that kind of helps show the differences between the two and just how similar they are. But beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you.